You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Hey everybody, welcome to Phoenix 92.5 FM. This is the Wrestling Rewind. My name is Darrow O'Connor, and we have a special arc for you this evening. It's been a while since we've done an arc, and now we're going in your house. We're going to make that joke a lot because Vince McMahon seems to love it. Says it a lot on this show. The announcer says a lot on the show. It's funny the first time you hear it, and then it starts becoming extremely grating.
It's the B sharps of wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's funny the first time and gets less funny the more you hear it. And unfortunately, when you're watching, I don't know what it's going to be like as we're going through, but particularly the first one, they say it a lot, and it is what it is. But of course, you heard my co-host. I'm not here alone. He is the one and only undefeated 1-0, Mr. Martin Hardy. How are things, Martin?
I'm absolutely grand, Dara. We had a blood and guts during the week, which was just a fantastic, violent lunacy fest. And Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor is tonight. So I'll be, as soon as we clock off here, I'll be jumping straight into that. So all is well.
And you know what, man? You've reignited my love of TNA wrestling. And the sad part about that is I think what's going to happen with this arc is I'm going to just go, we're doing TNA this week, and then we go back to In Your House because, oh my God, it's the best wrestling product. It's the best wrestling product of all time.
Well, that's actually okay. And in fact, so yeah, as Dara said, we're starting a new arc. It'll not be every week. Like, we'll dip in and out as we need to, but it's to do with the In Your House pay-per-views, because I think they cover a really interesting transitional period from kind of new gen into Attitude Era, and it's an interesting kind of period without having to do the weekly or every single pay-per-view. But we were kind of go ahead.
Sorry, go on. Sorry, let's finish that.
I was saying we were kind of torn between doing this, and because we did TNA last week, just completely by coincidence, Slammiversary was on. Yeah, and we didn't know which one we were going to do. But I'm very happy with that compromise there. If we want to sort of ping pong between In Your House and TNA.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a good product. Now, I mean, like classic TNA, and it's all on YouTube, which is not really a good way if you're selling an app, which they are. But everything you want to see on TNA is on YouTube that they put up themselves. So, I mean, big boulabus for Impact Wrestling. They are great business people is the wrong word to use because this is like the opposite of what you do, but they make our lives so much easier.
Well, it's great. I really don't need another subscription service.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But it is hilarious because it's just like, oh, I don't need to buy anything. It's right here. So yeah, I think, we'll be kind of ping-ponging back and forward between it. But as far as the time machine, it is firmly on this In Your House trajectory. Because, like, there's such weird shows. And I have a bone to pick immediately, though. the artwork that they used for the first couple of shows is like the laziest thing in the world.
Is this the crossed feet in front of the television? Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
God.
like you couldn't come up with anything better than that. No, like the first I would have been okay with it. The first one, and I'm like, you had no other ideas. No, that's the best you had. It's like, oh, we've changed the color, and we'll go to lunch. And it was like, oh,
But it's so bizarre because
so weird.
It's like, okay, I get it. Yeah, in your house to pay-per-view, you're going to watch it in your house. The wrestling's going to be in your house. But you're a wrestling company. Like 90% of your wrestling is in my house.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I go to live events. It's
Exactly.
all television or pay-per-views or...
It's weird. It's very weird. But the thing is, like, again, we have to set our expectations here. So for anyone listening, first of all, thank you so much. If this is your first show, welcome. We apologize in advance. But if you want more, you can go over to nerdtoknowmedia.com, thewrestlingrewind.com, and pick up all the shows for free. There's no paywall. However, you can't support us. And for tonight, because of the time it is, it's not an X-Pac Euro. It's a 1, 2, 3 kid Euro.
€1, 2, 3 kid.
A Hainado a 3 kid Euro.
Not to get us banned off the radio, but it's like the old what do you call it?
Please don't.
Paddy Short, the old song. And I go in, fuckle do, fuckle 3, fuckle ella.
That's okay. No, that's okay. That's okay. And that was Richie Kavanagh.
Richie Kavanagh. Oh,
yeah. Not Pat Short.
Pat Short. Pat Short was the jumbo breakfast roll.
He was.
Richie Kavanagh was did you ever get a ride? Did you ever get a ride? Did you ever get a ride on a tractor?
Yeah, that would track. And that's okay. He was speaking Irish, folks. He was not swearing, so it's okay. We don't have to cut that.
Is the Irish word for word.
It is, and we don't have to cut that. So that saves me a lot in editing. So okay. So some background of these shows. These were a series of shows that weren't exactly pay-per-views as such. They've been retroactively titled In Your House. And this one specifically is In Your House Premier and then In Your House 1, right? So they're not pay-per-views as such, but they are. So up until this point, there was just the big 5, right? That WWE were doing, or the big 4, but at this time it was the big 5. It was WrestleMania, King of the Ring, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and the Royal Rumble. Of course, today we only have 4 of those. And then
King of the Ring's kind of been supplanted by Money in the Bank.
Money in the Bank.
Probably the big...
I'd say so, yeah.
Or Fastlane.
Or WWE WrestleMania Backlash Nightmare Edition Super Bonus DLC.
Paid DLC.
Paid DLC on disc. Paid DLC. Yeah. So this was WWE's kind of way of leading into having more shows. Well, it is super like lazy, really, to be like, oh, in your house, yeah, that works. So a lot of them, yeah. Sorry,
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say a lot of them are in 1995, and then they're like, oh, we'll just sporadically pepper them throughout 96 and 97. So,
and 95's it's not a classic, not a classic year for them.
No, it's not. So to put this into context, this would be when, just before Nitro actually started absolutely smashing its teeth in. But you can see why.
I think it's their worst year ever. Like in terms of numbers, gates, in terms of like profits, like everything. I think 95 is like their worst year. Look, history.
To put this into context, right? So when was this show? This show was May 1995. So just pulled up Starrcade from this year, right? At the same time, you had DDP, you had Justin Thunder Liger having absolute barn burners with Chris Benoit. What's it? Randy Savage. Sting was in there with Kensuke Santaka. Ric Flair, Sting, and Luger would be were the top of the card at the time. So like that's who they're competing against. that caliber, like the main WWE stalwarts, really all left and went to WCW. So
What
they
was
had to move in.
what was McMahon? So just to zero in on like one of them, what was McMahon thinking, letting Randy Savage go?
Well, he used him as a commentator. He
Yeah,
didn't want to be a
he
commentator
wouldn't
anymore.
let him wrestle. He
Yeah.
thought he was too old.
Yeah.
What was he, like 38 or something?
Yeah, like he looked a hell of a lot older than he actually was.
Yeah, but that's you know, like he had so much left in the tank, and like he wanted to stay. He left out of pure frustration because they wouldn't let him wrestle, and he was so over. He was the bloody Macho Man.
He even had a rap album left.
Oh my God, what was it called again?
Unchained, is it?
I think it is. Yeah.
Massive Man Unchained. I haven't looked it up, so I could be wrong, but that is my guess, and I'm going to stand by it.
But there's a couple of things. It was actually a kind of a perfect storm of different things that led to the creation of In Your House. So, firstly, WCW started pushing monthly pay-per-views.
Yes.
Heading in that direction. That was a big one. Saturday night's main event, WWF's kind of main TV show at the time, was taken off the air. It was not syndicated. It was the different TV stations that had been running it had dropped or cancelled it. But the biggest thing was apparently one of the reasons we have In Your House is because of Batman.
What?
So, yeah.
Okay, go on. Tell me this.
So, WWF used to make like a fair portion of their profits from VHS tapes.
Right.
And back in the day, like, this is going to sound mad to anyone who's younger than 30, right? But back in the day, when VHS tapes first came out, kind of blew people's minds that you could own a film, or you could own, so like, wasn't you go to the cinema and you see it, or it just happened to be on TV or whatever, you could own it, right?
Yeah.
So when they first came out, VHS tapes were insanely priced, like $70 for a new VHS tape with a movie on it. Like, they were mad priced.
Yeah, and I remember this.
Yeah, nuts. And WWF were making pucks of money on VHS tapes original, because they weren't doing that initial mad pricing. They were kind of lower than that, but they were also still just way overpriced. So they were firing them out, and they'd fire out all sorts. You know, you'd obviously have your pay-per-views, but then they'd pick, like, say they'd do, it'd be called like the best of Bret Hart, but it would be like 6 random matches, like just good, bad, in the middle. It wouldn't matter.
The best of Bret Hart.
Yeah, like
randomly picked.
Yeah, there would be. Like, it wouldn't be. Nobody had sat down and said, "Oh, we're really going to pick out his 6 best matches." It would just be any old crap. I have a Best of Bret Hart Volume 1 VHS. I actually still have it, and there's Bret Hart versus IRS.
Oh, the classic.
On like a random main event or Superstars or something like that, and it's
what
like,
are you talking about? The math classic.
This is not. It's like 30 seconds in, IRS is gassed. But anyway, so where Batman comes in is, so WWF actually, business went down in 95, gates went down, pay-per-view buys went down, and the big one was sales of VHSs went down, and then Batman came out. Like the original Tim Burton one.
Batman 89.
Oh, then 95. Then it wasn't. Maybe it was a later one. But it was one of the Batman movies came out on VHS anyway, right? And as a promotional thing, for some reason, they decided Batman is going to be $9.99 on VHS, and this just upended the whole VHS industry, because this was what people expected. So Batman became it was like one of the biggest selling VHSs ever as a result of that. Like if you have a VHS collection, it was almost like, if you look at any N64 collection, GoldenEye is in it.
Yeah. It's like one of the main staples. That's the word they use.
Exactly,
Staples
because
in it, yeah.
a mixture of a good movie, but also just really affordable. So this hit WWF's, like, this upended the whole VHS industry, but also hit WWF's pricing really hard. So In Your House came about as a result of lost income from, like I said, the pressure from WCW, just the gate and that generally being down, and the loss of profits on the VHS industry was a huge one for them. So they come out with this monthly, as you say, pay-per-view, but not a pay-per-view, but is a pay-per-view. It's about half the price of a regular pay-per-view. It's only 2 hours long, but really, like, when you take everything into account, it's about an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the long-winded version of how Batman almost bankrupted the WWF.
Well, I mean, it did actually kind of change, flip the script a little bit as well. One thing about WWE is they've always been really good about jumping on these technological advances, right? Like, even to the network now.
Yeah.
They were so ahead of its time in that sense, where they're like, oh, we should probably have a wrestling network. Nobody else thought that would be a good idea. Nobody else was like doing that. WWE were the first ones there. And by jumping on this, it's like, yeah, look, the show itself, it's gimmicky and kind of hammy, but that kind of is just the new generation era in general. But it's also way more accessible than, like, if you were to order WrestleMania or something like that, it probably would have been like $70 or probably more. This would be what, maybe $20?
$15.
$15?
$14.95. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
at the time, obviously.
Well, it delivers. I mean, for $15, it's like, I would have been like, all right, yeah, that's fine, like, it looks good. Like, the actual show itself and the set looks pretty cool, and the crowd seem really into it, and they have like the little gimmick with the house and all that kind of stuff as well. It's definitely better than what WWE have done when they've tried this again with something like Cyber Sunday, or when WCW tried it. And it's
You'll never forgive them for that, will you?
No, oh my God, no way. It's like, this is WWE going small, and when they go small, they seem to do it well because the details are all there, and even though, yeah, it's a bad year, it still was a much better year, and this show was much better than 2005. Any 2005. In 10 years, they forgot how to be a wrestling company. So yeah, look, it's a smaller crowd. It's 9,000 people.
Well, it's kind of bizarre.
7,000.
There's a huge disparity between the crowd and the buys. So
yeah,
the crowd is 7,000 people, but literally half, 3,500 of those were free. They only actually sold 3,500 tickets, and then to fill the building out, they just let whoever wanted in.
You know what though? Fine, that looks well. Genuinely, I mean, I would much rather watch a show papered like this. This is the best papering I've ever seen, because when WCW did it, they would just let drunk college kids in. When TNA did it, it was random people at Universal Studios who were like, "What's wrestling? Where's Hulk Hogan?" And
then unfortunately, he would show up.
He would show up eventually. Yeah. So they weren't wrong, but this is like random families and like people who would be at the show anyway. And it worked.
I can just imagine TNA people outside going, "Hey, you want to come in and see the wrestling show?" And people coming up going, "Oh my God, like, you mean like The Rock?" Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. And basically, and just like, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's exactly who's in it. It's like, no, what would more, it would mainly be people who want to escape the Florida sun to go into the air conditioning. And they can't afford to go into the...
It's the same thing, though. Oh, do you have air conditioning? Yeah, sure. The Rock's bringing it.
Now, to be fair, they did have air conditioning in there. So
all right.
I will be fair. I mean, when you're in Orlando, you can't walk outside with air conditioning. So it's like, yeah, that's fair enough. But yeah, like this.
So the kind of disparity here, though, is that crowd of 7,000, bit
Yeah.
disappointing, especially when half of them are comped.
Yeah.
332,000 pay-per-view buys. It is the second biggest pay-per-view that year,
Wow.
next only to WrestleMania, and WrestleMania was only like 338,000. Like it was literally only a few thousand short of WrestleMania.
But the thing about it is, man, it's because they competitively priced it. You know, like you're going to give something a chance if it's priced decently. You know, and
Yeah.
like there is something to be said for, okay, so in that stage, right, there is something to be said for holding a value at a brand. For example, like luxury products, like an Apple product, right? If you have a MacBook or something like that, it can be seen as a status symbol, and you wouldn't price that down because it would kill the value. However, your market share is going to be limited because you're pricing at a premium. But if you're looking to try something new, like you often see this, particularly with video games, the PlayStation 1, 2 or 1, one of them was like massively discounted. And same with the Wii, actually, it was massively discounted, and that's how it just dominated. Because it was a good product, but people didn't want to pay, a luxury price of like a PS3 or something like that. And they're like, yeah, okay, we're gonna price it at this. And you see it all the time, and even, well, now you see it with people like, okay, there's a brand, I'm not going to name them because obviously it's not going to name them. Don't want to get Phoenix FM in trouble, but it's like, it's an online cheap version of a store, you get loads of ads for it in YouTube. You know what I'm talking about?
I wish you would tell me what you're talking about.
It's not that one. It's not that. No, it's the one that begins with a T. And you see ads for it everywhere now. And apparently the way their business model is, they will pay for shipping, like at a massive loss. So they're building up their customer base at a massive loss, and then eventually people will come back. And that's kind of what's happening here, where WWE will take the hit, dropping the price way down, eating the losses, but then also retaining them as a customer. It is quite smart, and it's a good way to do it for a new product, which is in your house.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that sort of came together to make this like the huge success. Like it was a genuinely unexpected success. Like even amongst not just WWF, even amongst the pay-per-view provider, they were kind of almost overwhelmed by how popular this was,
and they couldn't afford a new poster at any time.
But so yes, one of the points you made, 100% correct, that it was competitively priced. The other thing was that it was new, like it was kind of a novelty. It was the first time WWF had done anything like this. Before the call, me and Dara had been talking about how we're both really excited for All In at Wembley, but this is probably, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but this is probably AEW's only chance of actually getting like a 90,000 sellout arena, because it's the first time.
You could say that the Wrestling Rewind is all in.
We are all in. And then when we get there, we're going to be all out on the points.
So many points. It's going to be ridiculous.
But the third thing that actually sold this pay-per-view was, as part of the gimmick to promote this.
Oh, yes.
In your house, they gave away a house.
So you know what they should do? They should do this again in Ireland. Everyone will play it.
They could be bankrupt. WWE be bankrupt in the morning. We bought one cottage in Clare. Bankrupt. One cottage in Clare and a chicken fillet roll. Just bankrupt. So the literally part of the pay-per-view here is people send in their letters, like and apparently they got
proof of purchase.
They got hundreds of thousands of entries into the So like for a start, everyone who entered the competition bought the pay-per-view to see if they won the house.
Yeah.
So it's kind of genius. Apparently the people that won the house sold it 6 months later for 175,000.
Nice.
So they sold it for that. So you can probably assume WWF got it for less. So let's even just be.
Well, it was in Florida, wasn't it? It was in like Miami.
Yeah.
Orlando. Sorry, it's in Orlando.
But you know what?
Orlando's not expensive.
Right. Let's not even let's just say that WWF. Let's say it was an even thing. WWF got it for 170,000. Right. They did 332,000 pay-per-view buys at $15 each. I mean, that's a win. You know? Like,
I mean, listen, Tony,
give away a house.
give away a house. That's what you should do. Add all in. Be like, listen,
In London, he'd need to sell out Wembley for a week.
no, but the house would need to be in London. It could be in like Slough or somewhere else. You know. No disrespect
Win a
to
house.
Slough, I like
Where
it,
is it? Shetland Islands.
Oh man, that'd be funny.
But it was like kind of a lunatic, but a little bit of an
It's such a good
ingenious
idea, though.
marketing move. Yeah.
Now, tell me this, right? So I wasn't able to find if this was it rigged?
I wouldn't imagine.
Was it
so.
worked? No. Okay.
I wouldn't imagine so because like okay, so we did the whole Cyber Sunday, Taboo Tuesday.
See, even you can't let that go.
No, but I was I searched high and low. I went through every podcast, every article I could to find out if those votes were rigged, and apparently they weren't. They genuinely weren't. And then I looked through the
democracy just doesn't work because they ended up picking the chain. The chain.
Do you remember they started giving away? Vince did a thing in the noughties where he was giving away $1 million on Raw or something. Yes. Apparently that wasn't rigged either.
Really?
So, yes.
Oh my God.
I don't think this was rigged because I don't see why it would be. Like, you know, I don't
know. Give Sid's kid a house, like
gives with a restraining order around it, 200 feet. But I don't think so. But it's just, it's not a great pay-per-view.
No, it's really bad.
But I'd say it's interesting, isn't it?
It is. It's just so okay. So we're gonna get into it. So look, we made
and it starts off really well.
We've made a lot of jokes here because that's what we do. But 90% of what we say is in jest. The rest of it is just, I don't know, what's the rest?
Lies.
90%
jokes, 10% lies.
10% lies. Now with more lies. But yeah, I mean, look, the show itself, when I was looking at it, I was like, I actually had a great time watching it. Because it was fun but awful, like in equal measure, you know?
Yeah.
And I have to say, straight off the bat, man, we got to see the former number one contender who went one-on-one with The Rock on Raw.
I was saving that for when we got there, but yeah.
He was there. We got to see him with Double J, Jeff Jarrett, as the roadie.
You got to see the genesis of the man who went toe-to-toe with The Rock and came within 3 seconds.
3 short seconds, that's all it was.
World champion at the height of WWF's popularity.
Oh man, I tell you, how lucky were we? That's all I can say.
Halcyon days.
But what's funny about this is, and also kind of weird, right? So they had a rake of dark matches after the show, and they were actually like money matches. Undertaker was in there. They had a King of the Ring qualifying match. Bam Bam Bigelow and Tanaka was there, and it's like, oh no, the people don't want to see that. They want to see Mabel versus Adam Bomb.
Yeah, don't get the Undertaker on the show. Get Mabel.
God no. We want to see Mabel.
Get Mabel on there. Get the Smoking Guns.
Smoking Guns. Smoking Guns also had a former number one contender who went one-on-one with the great one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bob, but my name is Billy.
And old Sparky Plug was also on the show, but that was also a dark match. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the people in attendance, you know, really got a much better show when you look at it than we did. We got kind of cheated.
The dark matches are... Hold on, let me check. This is Brett Akushi, Double J, Mabel, tag team, Brett Lawler, and then the main event. So there's actually as many, so there's 6 matches
Longer.
in the show.
It's
but
longer.
I think there's 5 dark matches.
The dark matches are longer.
Yeah, they are, because like 2 of these matches are, one of them's like a minute and a half, and then another one's like, 2 of them are 5 minutes long. Like,
and 2 of them are 15 minutes long.
And one of those 15 minutes feels like 4 hours.
Sorry, I mean the dark match is 15 minutes.
Oh, the dark matches.
The dark match. No, on the card we have 15, 13, 2, about 6, and then 5, and then 12. And it's like, okay. So look, we'll start from the top. Obviously, Bret Hart's on the show a fair bit. And that's great. And I think, this Bret Hart I actually could really get into. Because he's actually really fun and like a cool character. And like, it's kind of goofy. Like this whole era is really, really goofy. Like exceptionally goofy. But
it's the era he's in. Like,
but it's still fun. I mean, like that opening match with Hakushi is like actually great.
Opening match with Hakushi could be on Dynamite this week and nobody would complain about it. Like,
that match is evergreen. You can put it on any wrestling show at any time and it will still be great. It really is wonderful.
Oh, but so like I say, opening match Bret Hart versus Hakushi. This is the genius of Bret Hart, and it's not even in the moves but there is a lot of great moves in this match, particularly from Hakushi, who was like a genuinely amazing high flyer at a time when, particularly in WWF, there was not a lot of high flying going on. And
WCW because it was banned.
Oh God, yeah, they had that weird over the top rope rule at that time, didn't they?
Yep.
Bill Watts, what a lunatic. so for anyone who doesn't
he's not wrong. Go on, explain what.
For anyone who doesn't understand that, Bill Watts around this time came in and took over the booking of WCW, and he instituted this rule that if you threw anybody out over the top rope, you were disqualified.
Or if you went to the top rope.
Or if you jumped off the top rope, you were disqualified. It was the most bizarre nonsense. But anyway, Bret Hart versus Hakushi, brilliant match. But a lot of the greatness of this match comes from Bret's selling, and not even in selling of the moves, like selling that he's hurt or whatever. But like every time Hakushi does something, like early on in the match, Bret whips him to the ropes and Hakushi bounces back, and Bret's kind of lining up to a clothesline or whatever, and then Hakushi just cartwheels around him, and Bret's face is just, what the hell? And it's just all those little moments that sell it, and it's so bizarre because and Bret Hart is my all-time favorite wrestler. The day I met him, I was almost speechless. I was like a wee fangirl. I could have cried. He's incredible. But even I have to admit, in 1995, he was not the best promo.
No, he really isn't. Promos are not his.
He really is. He does 2 promos in this pay-per-view, and God, I love you, Bret. Please forgive me, but they're both terrible. But it's so weird that he cannot do promos, because in the ring, he emotes so well. Like, he tells a complete story, like, just with his face. I don't understand how he can be so expressive and so emotive and so descriptive in the ring, and then whenever someone puts a camera in his face, he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna punch you in the mouth, and I'm gonna do it for my mom, because mom really likes when I punch people in the mouth." Bret Hart. It's
yeah. Although I never associated Bret Hart with a good promo, to be fair.
Well, so
ever.
Later on, once he went heel, he was actually really good. Like, he really tore it up, particularly late '96 when he started doing the I think the moment his breakthrough came was when he had the cage match and he was screwed out of it, and Vince came into the ring to be like, "Oh, look, I acknowledge what happened," and he was like, "This is bull crap," and he shoves Vince down, and like this is like, I know if you're listening and you're like a younger fan, like this all sounds like boring nonsense, but this had never happened before. And I think Bret Hart's heel turn was when he really, really became a great promo. But even I will admit that prior to that, he was not good. Hello?
No, sorry. I had myself.
Oh, sorry.
I was on mute there for a moment. I was like, why can you hear me? Yeah. Look,
Oh, right.
this match was good, so we'll let that go. Fair play to,
Really
to
good
Bret.
match.
Like, he really did do a great job. And look, he'd get the win, right? But they were telling the story here throughout the night. So the commentator switch, oh my God.
So before you go on, let's talk about the commentary.
We have to. No, we have to. Yeah. Okay, so
phenomenal.
Vince is the commentator with Doc Hendricks, and people who don't know Doc Hendricks, it's Michael P.S. Hayes. Right? So
Michael P.S. Hayes, by the way, had been applying to WWF for literal years to get a job, and Vince wouldn't hire him because he was do Southern wrestling. You know, we do sports entertainment. He's do Southern wrestling. But eventually, he just
relents.
He just broke. He just broke Michael Hayes' spirit. It was like Michael Hayes was one of the Freebirds, you know.
He was one of the fabulous Freebirds, yeah.
Oh my God! And he Bruce.
I met Michael P. Hayes once. It was a good crack.
Well, Bruce Pritchard, he used to constantly ring Bruce Pritchard and go like, "I just want to wrestle. Have you got anything for me? I'll do anything. Have you got anything?" And they were like, "Well, we might bring you on as a commentator." And he was like, "All right, fine." And he came in as a commentator, and him and Vince did a kind of a test run. And Vince loved them. He was like, "Oh my God, like the back and forth was brilliant. You were great. But we're going to need to do something about that hair and that beard and that mustache and those clothes and that name." Basically, so they hired Michael Hayes, but literally the day they brought him in and they did the test run and it went really well, they literally had a stylist there waiting because Vince was like, "I'll give you the job, but only if you go and get your hair cut and your beard shaved like right now, like immediately." What a psycho. I
mean, he's going on television. Like,
he's a commentator.
I know, but you can see him. Like, it's not like he's hiding behind the back. Like,
but it's not like Jesse Ventura looked like a conservative, U.S. Republican candidate.
I know, but look, all I'm saying is there is some method to the madness. Now, it's crazy and insane, but it does make sense. Like, it's not. Look, if he had been on like the radio, that would have been a bit mad. But like, he's still on TV, and Vince is like, "Okay, here you go."
Well, there's like in my notes here, I have a number of references to the commentary, all of which are great, by the way. Like either great or hilarious. None of them are bad in the way that, like Jerry Lawler or what he called the growling creep,
Mark Madden.
Or Mark Madden are bad.
The character, Mark Madden, not the man. The distinct character that was portrayed in WCW.
I love Dara's optimism that he thinks Mark Madden listens to our podcast. But some of them are great. So I'll mention them through the night. But just one of the early ones I had was in the Bret Hakushi match where he's like, "Hakushi feeling the pressure, wrestling here on foreign soil." And I'm going, well, Bret Hart's Canadian.
Yeah.
that's it. Neither of these guys are from the US. Why is the crowd chanting US?
Because the crowd doesn't know there's a difference. That's why. Either does Vince or Doc, apparently. So I have to say, right, what I love about this era, right? So mullets galore.
Oh my God! Yes.
So many mullets. It really is like an epidemic on this show. Everyone has a mullet, right? But it adds to it.
And he made Michael Hayes cut his hair.
I know, right? Like you're the main guy. It's like you let him on television like that. Come on. Anyway, so obviously the King isn't doing commentary just yet, so he's still an active wrestler, right? So watching King in his not prime, but in his like wrestling time, like because he's been wrestling for years. Obviously, he's not retired, but he's in that like twilight years, you know?
Yeah,
it's bizarre because you're like, this is
irregular.
The King. Yeah, it's like this is the King, and he's not on commentary, and it's kind of weird. But I do really like every time he's like cutting a promo. It's super fun. I appreciate the phones. This WWF line that they have. So for anyone who doesn't know, there would be like a graphic that pops up and like these two people on phones. I don't really know what they're doing. But when you're watching the show, it says like phone number no longer active because obviously it was 20, 30 years ago, I think at this point.
Man, if you ring it up and just like a really old diesel answers. Yo, been here for 30 years.
How'd you get this number?
How'd you get this number?
But yeah, I just really appreciated like those little touches because they wouldn't show up again. I also just realized one of the person on thing really looks like Lex Luger, but it's not. I just really appreciate those little touches because you would never really get those again. They would kind of like do drips and drabs a little bit, but it really is of its time, this superstar line. Another thing as well that I have to talk about that I really, really appreciated and I wish they would do, but they don't do anymore. Phone promos.
Oh, yes.
So I thought this was brilliant. They would do a promo for like Sean Waltman, so the 1-2-3 Kid, X-Pac, was on the phone.
I'll give all his names. Six Pack.
We'll be here.
In honor of TNA.
We'll be here.
Tracky Pack.
We'll be here all day if we do that. Literally. But like I've never heard this before, where instead of like having them in over like satellite or any other ways you'd have them in, he's on a phone.
And not a phone. It sounds like he's in a bloody phone box. It's terrible.
Sounds like it's like the worst phone line ever.
It's 1995, so it can't be a mobile. So
no, so it has to be like a landline or a telephone somewhere in the middle of.
It must literally be a phone box up a mountain.
But I just think it really adds to it. It's like the thing about like even doing this show, when you have people in over the phone, it sounds more radio for some reason than people like talking in mics like we are. So it's an aesthetic choice, but like this is just technology, not being able to reach what they're doing.
There is a certain charm.
There is a charm to it. Yeah.
From that era of wrestling. And it's actually something that people have recognized now. I don't know, because I know you're only a kind of a casual AEW fan, so I don't know if you've watched any episodes of Collision.
No. Okay. Each episode of Collision starts with this, like, even before the music or anything, there's like an opening promo of the matches on the night. You know, and it'll be like CM Punk going, Jay White, I'm going to kick your ass, blah, blah. And it's all taken from Saturday Night's Main Event or inspired by Saturday Night's Main Event. And it gives the whole show like this wonderful kind of old style, almost territory feeling. Yeah, and that's exactly what this kind of feels like, because as Double J and the Roadie are coming down to the ring, the commentators are talking to the 1-2-3 Kid, and it just adds this like feel to it where you're like, this is way more interesting than them just inanely jabbering about nothing. It's so simple, and it's such a basic way of communicating, but you're like, this is so much better than it should be. And he's on a phone. It's weird. And then at the same time, another thing that they do that I actually really like as well, the wrestlers then, so Razor cuts a promo as Double J's in the ring, and the music you can hear in the promo. So he's cutting it as it's happening. Like, yeah, okay, it's probably better to do it all broken up, but it makes everything a lot tighter.
I
And
actually
it makes it
wonder.
zip along.
I wonder, is that so? Like, if that was happening nowadays, like Vince would just be like, "No, you need to be in the arena."
Yeah.
So I wonder, is that a way? Is that a way of? Well, you were technically here, so you don't get paid.
Maybe actually. No, I still think he probably will get paid for that. But it's also like, no, Vince, my pizza.
But we should say before we move on to Double J versus not Double J and almost world champion the Roadie versus Razor Ramon. At the end of the Bret Hart match, he defeated Hakushi. Like we both said, really good match. Weirdly, Bret jumps out of the ring and twists his ankle or his knee as he's getting out of the ring.
Yeah.
Like, just wrestled this like Japanese lunatic and injures himself getting out of the ring, and then has to hobble to the back, and that'll come into play later. So sorry to interrupt you there.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And just before the next match, they make a whole thing to show all the letters. I have to say, gimmicky as all hell, but incredibly effective. It's a very, very cool visual.
Isn't it? So these are all the letters from people who'd written in to enter the competition to buy the house or to win the house. And you're 100% right. Huge pile. In fact, before they show the huge pile of letters, they show an armored van being escorted by the police to the arena that's bringing the letters.
It's like it's like Santa has like upgraded his security. Like, we're not messing about here.
And they have as their before they've picked a winner. Like, say at the arena, they have the big pile of letters, and they have 8 or 10 police surrounding them.
Yeah.
But the hilarious thing is that before the main event, they pick the winner. So pick the winner, and we'll talk about it later, blah, blah, blah. But someone's won, and that's great. And the competition's over. But at the end of the main event, when Sid is walking back to the like locker room, whatever, all the cops are still guarding the letters. I'm like, the competition's over. Like, you're just guarding paper now. The competition's over.
So look, this match is pretty interesting. It has Jeff Jarrett like in his "with my baby tonight" phase. So he's basically playing the character as a country music star, which makes sense. Here's the thing about Jeff Jarrett, right? Jeff Jarrett's character makes no sense at all. The only time it makes sense was at this point, because all the stuff he does relates back to this. The same with the Road Dogg. The Road Dogg makes no sense either, but it does here because and even in this match they call him the roadie. He's a roadie, exactly.
And Jeff Jarrett, country music star.
Yeah, it's like that's why he carries the guitar around. It actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like, Road Dogg means nothing, and Slapnuts means nothing.
Well, look, okay, so Jeff Jarrett went from country music star to misogynist to Slapnuts to Triple H with guitars.
Do you know,
that's the arc. That's where is the arc.
Do you know what this actually reminds me of?
I don't understand. I don't know how that happened, but that's what happened to Jeff Jarrett.
But honestly, do you know what this reminds me of?
What?
The Irish language.
Oh.
So if you take any place in Ireland.
Yes, Nobber's a good example.
Yeah, exactly. Take any place in Ireland and what's its name? Like, so I'm obviously I'm from Armagh, so I'll say Crossmaglen. What does that mean? It means nothing. Crossmaglen, it's just a series of words. But it comes from the Irish, Crishfaglenon, which is Lenin's cross. And apparently the name came because there was a man there, Lenin, who used to sell like just renowned around the whole country, just the best poutine, right? So there's a story there, and there's like a genesis, an origin there
of McGillicuddy.
Of McGilligan. But Oscailga in Irish, like it makes sense, and then when it moves, it's been anglicized and changed across. But
Yeah,
it's just a noise.
It's like Nobber. So, it used to be called Onober, the place of the work. Of course, there used to be a big workplace there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But then it becomes Nobber.
It means nothing. This is nonsense. Yeah.
So like. Yeah, it is like that in that when you look at the road dog.
The road dog.
A dog that runs, so like a stray dog.
It actually makes no sense unless you go back. And even in this match, and in House 2, they're like, oh, the road dog. You're like, oh my God, it makes so much more sense.
Exactly. Once you go to the origin, it makes sense. And even with Jeff Jarrett, when you go to him walking around, why is he hitting people with a guitar?
Exactly.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
Like, oh no, you have to go back to friggin' 1995 when he was a country music star that used to wear a hat that lit up.
Yeah. Like, it's so funny. It's like how it's so funny how like those two specific characters held on to this period as their like roots, and everything else just stems from it, you know.
And they left everything else, like everything about their gimmicks changed completely.
As I said, Jeff Jarrett, like his next big role is misogynist.
Yeah, and the road dog, like he wouldn't even like when he fought The Rock 1-on-1 and almost became the world champion at the height of the Attitude Era.
Former number one contender.
Doesn't even recognize that literally he got into the business by being the roadie for. You don't even think of country music stars as having roadies. You think of roadies as like metal bands, but
yeah. But hey,
country music is like, you know, it's like acoustic. Like, what's he roadieing around? Like,
but testing the mic.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough. 1, 2.
1, 2. That's it. Exactly.
1, 2.
But yeah, so okay, we're almost at time, but we're not. So we can kind of go on. So really quick.
But before we go, was Jeff Jarrett back? So this is his country music gimmick. Was he hitting people with guitars?
No, he didn't do it. He only started. He only started doing that when he was with Owen Hart. And then he went into his feud with China, which was, you know, before he went to WCW. He only really started doing the guitar thing in WCW. That's why it makes no sense.
When he wasn't the country music star.
Oh, my God.
Amazing. I love wrestling so much.
You know what? I think I still have Jeff Jarrett on Skype, actually. I'm tempted to just email him and be like, listen,
oh my God,
come back on the show. We have loads of questions that are about this.
Let's really grill him.
I need to just know.
Let's like point a light directly in his face and really grill. Why did you have the guitar?
Oh my God.
Why didn't your roadie have a name?
Why do you need a roadie?
Why do you need a roadie? To carry your guitar that you didn't have.
Oh, so Razor comes out, and it's the real Razor, not the fake Razor. Because I was,
Praise be.
Yeah, so it really was Razor Ramon, and they have an actual very, very good match, a very solid 12-minute match.
Now, so it's we should say before you go on, this is not a 1-on-1. This is a handicap match.
No, it's
a handicap match where they have to tag in and out.
And it's also not for the IC belt.
Not for Double J's, not for Jarrett's Intercontinental title, but it is Jarrett and the roadie versus Razor Ramon. But Jarrett and the roadie have to tag in and out. And
it is the first time that they've actually ever seen the roadie in the ring. They make a big point out of that.
And it's the first time there's ever been a handicap match on a WWF pay-per-view.
That's true too. So a lot of firsts on the show.
Do they still call it a handicap match?
I think so.
Oh.
So again, they lean very heavy into Double J's Ric Flair isms. So using the figure floor and the strut and all that kind of stuff. But if you notice when you're looking at Roddy's gimmick, he's actually, or his attire, he's actually wearing what he would wear in the Job Squad before he was in DX. So it's like he never actually really changed his gear that much. He just added some green to it, but he's just wearing his job squad gear now.
He literally just limped into success, didn't he?
It's incredible. It really is. It's like
Just-
the bare minimum. The bare minimum.
Because nobody's going to call him like a technical master. I mean, he has
He has buckets of charisma. Like he's so over. Like
people say he has loads of charisma. People say he has mic skills, but really, what he had was a routine. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's what he had.
Also, Jeff Jarrett looks so weird with long hair, man. It's so distracting.
Is that what's weird? It's not the hat that lights up.
All of it. All of it. Everything is wearing the little tassels and everything. It's such a weird. I don't know how he was like, you know what? Yeah, this works. It's the best.
Honest to God, I think Jarrett is one of the few wrestlers who's actually better now in his 50s than he ever was in his prime.
Look, I've always had a soft spot for Jeff Jarrett. I think he's great. I think he's always been great. This is the weirdest period for Jarrett.
You have survivor's guilt. You have a soft spot for anyone who was in TNA.
But he started TNA, so it's his fault. Like he was the one that founded it.
You have Stockholm syndrome.
That's fair. That's fair. And on that note, folks, we're going to put a pin in it here for the Phoenix FM show. If you like this, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. We're here next week. We're here every week on Phoenix 92.5 FM. But you can get all of our shows. They're really racking up now, Martin. Over on thewrestlingrewind.com, nerdtoknowmedia.com. Basically, anywhere podcasts are made available. Spotify, Apple Podcast, still going to call it iTunes because that sounds better. And basically, they're all there for free.
We should have about, 140? But if we're doing the old WrestleMania number enhancing, we've got 7,000 shows.
Well, look, nearly 2 years of shows anyway with myself and Martin. So that that's what it is, and then a couple of more shows with Dave as well. Again, like they're all there for free. You don't need to pay for anything, but you can support us via Patreon and give us a 123 kid euro. We would appreciate that. And also, you can go over to YouTube and get the shows there as well. So, Martin, is there anything you want to plug before we take a break here?
Not at all. I just encourage people, if you've enjoyed the show, hop onto the Patreon. We really do. And we love the people of Phoenix FM, but once we hop onto the Patreon, this is really when the crack starts. Not the Patreon, on the podcast. Once we hop onto the podcast, that's when the crack starts.
And that's when it's in your house.
In your house, in your face, in your ears, in your other stuff we can't say until we're on the podcast, but we can assure you we'll get right up in there.
Exactly. So if that's called the Mark Madden hard sell, that's what that's called. And on that note, folks, we'll be back after this break if you're listening to the podcast, and next week here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. See you later, guys.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.
Alright, everybody, welcome back to the Wrestling Rewind here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. Well, it's not, it's afterwards. And we're on nerdtoknowmedia.com, the wrestlingrewind.com.
Yeah.
And the True Penny channel. So thank you so much. No matter how you found us, how you listen to us, we do appreciate it. The best way you can help us out is by spreading the word of the show, or you can give us a 123 kid euro or Virgil tenner.
And bear in mind that 123 kid, like there's a number of numbers in there. You can send us €1, you can send us 2, you can send us 3, you can send us 123. You can add 1, 2, and 3, get us €6, or if you're not doing well, you can just add 1 and 2. Like a wealth of options.
You know what's crazy though? If you add 1 and 2, you get 3. If you add that to 3, you get 6.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do you know if you add 9, 11 up together? spells 911, or maybe I got that backwards. There was some conspiracy back in the day.
I did not know where you were going with that. I was like but then I remembered it's not on the radio, so it's okay.
Yes, no, but it's not one of those like mad racist conspiracies. It's not one of those like, like no Jewish people went to work on 9/11. It's not like one of those. It's just a weird numerical thing. Like I can't remember what it is. If you add up all the numbers, so what would it be?
Like it becomes the number 23, doesn't it? I think it does.
Yeah, it's one of those weird.
It's one of those mad numerical ones.
It's one of those idiot conspiracy theories, but not one of those racist conspiracy theories.
Yes, the good kind. Just crazy, not racist. That's what you want. That's a sweet spot. All right. So before
exactly, you want jet fuel can't melt steel beams. You don't want jet fuel can't kill Jews. You know.
Okay. Oh, James, I'm so sorry.
But this is, by the way, we're just these are just some of the lunatic things that were said. We don't endorse or believe any of these.
No, of course not. Of course not. Of course not.
Although it is true that jet fuel actually can't kill Welsh people.
Really?
Just saying, the Welsh got overlooked. 9/11 happened and nobody looked at Wales.
Yeah, but Wales is like very small. I mean, every time I go through Wales, I get scared by the sign for the toilet because it's like 27 letters.
You go.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't like that there were buildings taller than their words.
We have to get even somehow, right? Is that what they were thinking?
I'm just saying. I'm just asking questions.
That was in South Park, wasn't it? Just asking questions. Just asking questions.
What I will say as well is, this was Jeff Jarrett and the Roadie versus Razor Ramon. It wasn't a great match. But it was a decent match.
Yeah.
What I will say about it is, oh my God, before he became crippled by drugs and drink, Razor Ramon was a fucking powerhouse because he hoofs Jarrett and the Roadie up for the Razor's Edge in an incredibly impressive move.
Yeah.
Like when it's not been done from the turnbuckle or anything, like he literally hoists these grown men on his shoulder and then he repositions them and then he just lifts them up with his arms. And like when you're in that position, like there's nothing they can do to make themselves lighter. They can't like jump or go with the lift or anything like that. He is literally just sandbagging these wrestlers over his head.
But when you think about it, like the only other guy who really does that move nowadays is Sheamus, and Sheamus is huge.
Oh, tank.
So really, when you think about it, for some reason, when you see Razor Ramon or Scott Hall, you think he's a small guy. He's not. He's not.
Oh.
You know, he really isn't. And it's only, you know what I think it is? I think because he's around Kevin Nash all the time.
Yes.
That's probably what it is. You're like, oh, he's not that big. And you're like, wait,
he's
no,
an
Kevin
enormous
Nash.
Man.
Yeah.
He could barely fit into whenever I took him around Cork, he could barely fit into my Hyundai i30. Like
Really?
He had to jag the seat like as back as far as it would go.
Wow.
To make room for himself and his giant spliff. But he was, what I will say, and I've told this story 100 times in this, and I don't care, I'm going to tell it again, a genuinely really nice guy. So happy to give you any advice, so happy to tell you about whoever you liked back in the day. Like, what was Goldberg like? What was Bret Hart like? What was Diesel like? And I'm sure he's had to tell this same story to 100 people, but very happy to sit and chat to you. Really nice guy.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I mean, that's always really good to hear. At the end of this match, obviously, Scott Hall won as Razor Ramon. We had a bunch of run-ins. So one of them was
Aldo Montoya. What?
And no, wait, not Aldo Montoya. Who was the second guy who came in? Aldo Montoya came in the second guy.
Aldo Montoya came in, and then it was not only it wasn't X-Pac. Not
Sorry,
only
it wasn't X-Pac. No, why is it X-Pac?
Run in, but it was the debut of Savio Vega.
Is that who that was?
But see, here's why it's so weird that you were confused, because this guy ran in and the commentators didn't know who he was. The way they were reacting was like, oh my God, some man has just jumped in the, like, they weren't going like, that's Savio Vega. That's Razor Ramon's friend. He's not supposed to be here. They're just like, oh my God, some man has just jumped in.
Some man has just jumped in.
No wonder they had like people jumping the barricade over the years. It's like, you've given the impression that this is the way to get a contract.
And go backstage.
I think the most bizarre one. Have you ever heard the story of the guy who jumped in the ring with Randy Orton?
Sorry, 1 second, right? So as Savio Vega's been let out, right? The set is the house, right? And there's this very funny visual of like your woman and your man and a bunch of police at their house door. And it looks like Savio Vega has been arrested in someone's house. And it's like, what is going on?
Maybe it's a commentary on racial relations in America.
I don't know,
maybe it's Savio Vega's house. It's like, why am I being arrested? I was just standing outside my own house.
Although I have to say, there's a funny, like an actual funny promo for King of the Ring, and it's like all knights fighting and stuff, and it's like way more creative than WWE would ever be again with these kind of things.
This whole show is full of the most ridiculous, like hilariously creative promos. So, I mean, you might as well address it now because like we'll end on the main event.
Jerry the King Lawler also has a mullet as well.
Oh, which is one, like we'd be quicker naming the people who don't have mullets.
Wall to wall,
but
mullet in your house.
Mullet mania.
Mullet mania. What? Why were mullets a thing? What's going on?
It's 90s America. Who knows?
I don't know what's going on.
The mullet, was it ever a thing in Ireland?
Yeah, I saw one with someone with the other day, and I was really confused by it.
No, but like in the 90s, was it like?
I don't know.
I was like, nowadays, like
I don't know. I was like 7.
We need to watch Reeling in the Ears and see if there's a lot of mullets on it. But at the end of the main event, right? So just jump to this now. The main event happens, and then it cuts to this advert, and it's these 2 aliens in a spaceship.
Yes.
And one of them goes, "These people cannot be trusted. They have lost all right to existence. They destroy their landscape. They poison their air. They ruin their waters." And I'm like, whoa, like Greenpeace took an ad out in your house. Or, this is mad. They poison their waters. They poison the land. They cut down the trees. They destroy animals, blah, blah, blah. And then the other alien goes, "But hold on. They have merit. There are ones amongst them who are virtuous." And then it just cuts to like images of Bret Hart in the ring. Sparkplug and going, "There is a place called the WWF. These people may yet be redeemed." And then the other one goes, "Okay, we will not destroy this planet. We will check back in 100 solar cycles." And then the spaceship takes off, and a big, up on the screen, writing comes up saying, "WWF. We save the world, probably." What the fuck? This is mental. But
you think maybe if those aliens came back and they saw what Vince did, they're like, "We should have."
Like, "The aliens came back. We were going to destroy the world, but then we saw you had one of our people, Max Moon."
Vince just having sex with the aliens, being like, "I have a way."
Oh, and then denying it, and then being quiet. But do you know what?
Allegedly.
It's like you were saying at the start. This is the whole show is so catchy and so camp. It works.
It's wonderful though. It's like,
yeah,
it's just one of these. That's it. It's just so kitschy and so like, I don't know. People are like, "Oh, I want the attitude there. Oh, it's brilliant. The hot blood." I'm like, yeah, man, that was great, but this is like really fun. Like, I mean, I would watch this now, you know, because it doesn't pretend to be anything that it. I was at a circus during the week last weekend, right? And it was the first time ever that it actually hit home that wrestling is so carny, you know, because effectively wrestling is a circus. It's the exact same thing. They come out, they have music, it feels like it. The only thing that's different is there's no ring, right? And I'm like,
circus literally has a ring.
Yeah, no, but you know what I mean, though. There's no ropes with the, you know.
Yeah.
There's not a wrestling ring like a. But yeah, you're right. There isn't a squared circle. There's an actual circle. And I mean, when you see it, you're like, whoa, this makes a lot of sense. And I think this kind of show lends, like, it just kind of works perfectly. Because look, the talent on the show wasn't great. Let's be real. There's no match that I'm going to sit back and go, oh, I can't wait to watch Mabel and Adam Bomb again. You know?
Well, yeah, because it's only going to take you 90 seconds.
Yeah, but even then, those 90 seconds could be used doing literally anything else.
But you know what? I'd say Bret Hart Akushi was a good match, but just a good match. Like, not like it was a good match you'd expect on Raw.
But where else are you going to get cops walking Aldo Montoya away in front of a house? It just looks so hilarious.
This is why this pay-per-view is worth watching. It's for everything except the wrestling.
Exactly. It's like, what were you thinking? Like,
the promos are nuts. The video segments are lunatics. The advertisements that they put in it are just bizarre. Like, everything about this pay-per-view is worth watching except the wrestling, which is largely terrible.
You know, when speaking of commentators, so there's a bit just before the Mabel match where Vince and Doc are, you know, obviously recapping what's going on, and there's this little douchebag behind Doc's, right? And he's just the weirdest looking kid in the world. And there's just this big black gloved hand that comes over, like smacks him out of the way. He just like whack. It's just like, oh,
was he in the crowd?
Yeah, no, because you know the way, like, with the commentators, he's like literally set behind the commentators, and you can
but in the crowd,
yeah.
Okay,
and he's just giving so much shit to the camera, like with his little flag or something, and he just gets really, really aggressive at one point, and then just this black gloved hand comes over and like hits him out of the way.
Holds him. Black glove, who would that have been? Maybe Bad News Brown used to wear one glove.
It's just one of the security, obviously, just wearing a black glove, but it's just hilarious. And he's just like, oh,
Bad News Brown.
Bad News Brown. Oh, man. Would you buy a Bret Hart t-shirt, one size fit all, $20?
How bizarre is this? So there's an ad in the middle of the pay-per-view.
That shirt looks massive. It looks like a tent.
This new Bret Hart t-shirt, and it's called an all print t-shirt because it's not just a print on the front. There's stuff on the back as well. So it's a t-shirt then. And it's one size fits all. What do you mean one size fits all? Was it elastic or something? No, it's just huge.
It's just huge.
It's massive. So it'll technically fit everyone as long as, you know, your shoulders aren't narrower than the neck hole.
Our logic is it will fit everybody by fitting nobody.
Our logic is that we can defend one size fits all in court.
Your Honor, you see, technically it does.
Although you got to say, like a massive, like double XL Bret Hart t-shirt for $20, you wouldn't get it now.
Yeah, well, this is adjusted for inflation. That was probably like $40 or $50.
Yeah, at the time,
realistically.
Yeah.
So Mabel comes out, right? And this is before, I think it's before Mabel won King of the Ring, wasn't it?
So this is a King of the Ring qualifier.
Yeah, so this would be the one that he won. And he's booked like an absolute animal. But he's atrocious. And you know what? I feel bad for Adam Bomb. Because I'm like, man, you're the definition of a boy, of a book. Sorry, of a bookily. Legally distinct bookily, right?
Legally. But he's mad over.
He is, but he's also like, you're gonna get absolutely killed.
But
And
it
he
was
does.
so.
He'll win it.
He's one of those guys that I don't think you know what they had because he comes out and the crowd.
I love his
pop
pyro. I love his little pyro where it's a mushroom cloud.
I literally have that in my notes.
Do you?
The Adam Bomb mushroom cloud.
Listen, you said we wanted to make a definitive list, a Bookley list. Adam Bomb is now, after this, top of that list.
Oh, he has to be, and it's not even his fault. So
no, it's really not,
because right. So it's a King of the Ring qualifier. King of the Ring is next month. Mabel versus Adam Bomb. Adam Bomb comes out and gets.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Stop the lights. Stop the lights. Right. We have encountered Mr. Adam Bomb before. Do you know who he actually was?
I was about to talk about. He's
go on. Go.
Wrath from Chronic.
He's Wrath from Chronic.
So I was gonna. You never get away. The radiation after an Adam Bomb hangs around for years. But But here's the thing: is he's genuinely over. Like, he comes out and the crowd pops. He jumps into the ring. Genuinely impressive pyro. There's like an explosion goes off behind him and creates a literal, a small, but a literal mushroom cloud.
I love it, man. I would be. Why did he stop doing this? This is like the best.
I don't think it was him. He was just constantly booked to lose. So he's in here with Mabel, who, let's remember, pre-Viscera, he's not even a singles. He's a tag team wrestler, right?
Yep.
So
sorry, I have to call out the sign. There's this lad, right? And he looks like Billy from Power Rangers, but it's not. And he has this sign that he made himself, and it's the saddest sign in the world. It's like an A4 sheet, and it says, he's a grown man, by the way. He's like at least 40. Adam Bomb, King of the Ring. Oh, and he's holding it with such like purpose,
pride. Like, I brought my own sheet of paper. Well, now how long? 1995. How prevalent were printers? Maybe it was difficult to get a hold of an A4.
No, but it's like. It's like a stencil. He probably used, spirograph, and he's just there making it. And his wife just leaves him. It's like, listen, Barry, I'm sick of this. All you do is sit there with your spirograph making Adam Bomb signs.
Why didn't you go marry Adam Bomb?
Because, the look on that man's face is he's been through some stuff. So, I'm sorry, I had to call that out.
Oh, I wonder where he is now. Divorced.
Just hugging a Chronic shirt.
But this match lasts for a minute and a half. And it's actually, and again, fair play to Adam Bomb. It's actually the only exciting bits of this match come from him. So he does a class kind of elbow where he knocks Mabel out of the ring. Then he leaps over the top rope. Then he does like a top rope clothesline. Like,
and he's not dead.
He is doing all the work.
And he's not dead either. He's still alive.
Yeah.
However,
what?
However, so he in 2020 in February he was indicted on 5 felony charges.
Oh no!
Including conspiracy, drug possession, illegal control of enterprise.
Drug chronic. We'd expect drug possession.
Transporting, selling narcotics, possession of a weapon during a drug offence. He pleaded not guilty on July 18, 2021. All charges dismissed by prosecution motion.
Oh, so he's not guilty.
So he's not guilty. So fair play to him. So here's what needs to happen. Needs to bring this back. AEW one last run, brother.
Well,
call him Nuke.
But here's the thing. So, like, look, I'm not going to claim Adam Bomb was or Wrath from Chronic was the greatest wrestler. But in this match, he's definitely the workhorse. Like, he's doing all the work. Like, Mabel is getting hit and like taking a bump and then having himself a good wee snooze. So the last, like I said, the match is about 90 seconds. In the last maybe 15 seconds of it, Adam Bomb gets whipped into the corner, tries to do a reversal, but he can't do a reversal. And then one of the calls of the night, Mabel does like a kind of a Pele kick. And I mean, when I say that sentence, he does a kind of a Pele kick. The key words in there are kind of. Like, it's very much kind of. And Doc Hendrickson and Vince are just raving it. Vince is going, unbelievable, forget about it. And Doc Hendrickson, he's 6'8", he's 500 pounds, and he's able to move like that. And I'm sitting going, move like what? Because he falls backward and his foot barely about reaches his hip. Like he doesn't do a Pele kick and take the head off him. Like he rolls over and his foot glances Adam Bomb's like just above his knee. Like
I do have some good news.
What?
Brian Clark owns the trademark, the Chronic, Adam Bomb, and Rat.
Good man. So he does the autograph signing circuit.
Yeah, he does. So we need to get on to Tony. Be like, listen, here's what you do. Get that little miniature nuke.
Like,
for Wembley.
Tony, war in Ukraine, Adam Bomb has never been more relevant. But what I will say is, look, nobody's going to argue.
Hold on. Have him feud with Mirko. There you go.
Miro.
There you go. Mirko. Have him feud, and then there you go. Right itself.
But what I will say is, look, nobody's going to say Adam Bomb is, on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
You know what he is? Top Oakley.
But he's on the sleeve buhly. But look, he is the one who works his arse off in this match, and we did, I don't know, felt like 10 years of a WCW arc, and Chronic were consistently good. Like, we would watch these WCW pay-per-views when the company was just flailing, and there were very few moments on it that were genuinely consistently good. And Chronic was always like, never 5 stars, never the best thing of the night. But
reliable,
Chronic
though.
was always, yeah, exactly. You'd watch a Chronic match and you go, that was a nice reprieve from the shit fest.
Mercifully, this is over. But it was good. So
yeah. What's his name? Brian Adams, is it?
Yeah.
Good man, Brian Adams.
So we have our next match. And it's Owen Hart and Yokozuna. Now, Yokozuna is at his heaviest here. He is holy God.
Yeah.
So what people might not know is Yokozuna struggled with his weight and he just refused to lose weight. So instead of like firing him, they just moved him to a tag team with Owen Hart, who could do all the work. And that's what they did.
All the work. And it's Yokozuna does like literally nothing in this match. And he's still gassed.
He can't do any, man. He's just so heavy, like he really is. And apparently he just didn't want to lose the weight, which contributed to his very, very, very early death.
Apparently WWF sent him and Vader off to a weight loss camp at one stage. And both of them came back heavier. Apparently they used to break out in the middle of they had the energy for that. Apparently they used to break out in the middle of the night, and there was like a chicken takeaway that was about a mile from the fat loss camp. And they used to, whenever it was lights out, they would break out and go there and just like spend hundreds of dollars just eating their own weight in fried chicken.
Oh my
And then go back to the fat loss camp.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. It's also really sad and upsetting, but it's actually hilarious as well.
It is, because I mean, like, I don't have as much of an attachment to Yokozuna, but man, Vader. When Vader had,
You have to love the hustle, though. It's like a great escape.
it's like, if you put this level of effort into just doing some exercise, like, you know, and like eating just not $300 worth of chicken, like it.
It is in this match though. You're watching it. Yokozuna starts the match off, does 2 strikes, tags Owen in, and is gassed for the
he's
entire
out.
match.
Like
He's done.
he's out.
That's
Like
all
by
he
the
can do.
time he walks from the locker room to the ring, he's already at 50%. Like he's, you know, and the thing is that, like, this isn't a great match, but there's really good stuff in it, and it's all from the Guns and Owen.
Yep. And
So whenever it's the Guns and Owen, this is decent match.
And we have the return of the Smoking Guns. So B.A. Billy Gunn and Bodacious Bart.
Oh, bodacious Bart. Poor man had no idea what was coming.
No. Who won the Brawl for All, obviously. And yeah, so there you go. What did he call him in Brawl for All at the end of it? The Hammer?
Oh,
Bart the Hammer Gun or something? The
yeah,
Anvil? Something like that.
He went from bodacious Bart to Bart Gun to yeah, I think it was like the Hammer or the Anvil, or they gave him some really cool name.
And then he goes back to being Bart Gun.
And then he just got clocked and he just went back to being
It's like that bit from Simpsons,
Bart
you know,
the Bum.
you know, where it's like, they used to call me Kid, you know, Kid Beautiful, Kid Gorgeous, and then Kid Mo. I was like, it was Kid Gorgeous, Kid Presentable, and then Kid Mo. And that happened with Bart Gun. It's like Bart Gun, Bodacious Bart.
It's like,
The Anvil Gun, Bart Gun.
they used to call me Brett the Hitman, and then they called me Brett the
Man.
Kneecapper. and then they called me Brett the Tickler.
And then Brett the Man.
Brett the Man. And then just Brett.
And then hate you behind bushes.
But yeah, like I was saying, this is if you remove Yokozuna from the equation, I mean, this is no kid. There's some really good spots in here, some really good tag team stuff coming from the Guns, and some obviously really good like solo stuff coming from Owen. But it's good in the context of this pay-per-view. It's not something that I would go back and watch.
Well, Martin, you also you have a better MMA record than Bart Gunn.
What?
Yeah, Bart Gunn is 1-1.
He did.
Yeah.
So what was his MMA? When did he do MMA?
So he was in Pride.
I thought you're not. I was like, you're not counting like a Lions cage match or something.
No. Lion's Den match.
A Lions Den match.
No, he wrestled, or he fought at Pride. So yeah, one in Japan, and then that was in Japan, and then for an event called ROTR. So he has one loss by decision, and then one TKO.
Do you know, like, I know for a long time we've talked about how we're going to do like a kind of a book about the best wrestling signs, like the fans hold up. But the more we talk about it, the more I think we should do a book on all the wrestlers that I have a better MMA record than.
I mean, there's a fair amount, man. Like,
Yeah, Butterbean never knocked me out. I'm pretty sure I could go more than one round with Butterbean. Like, and now I would go it by just running around the place and not letting him anywhere near me.
That's fair. That was Bart Gunn's big mistake.
Yeah, you tried to box him.
He took the box with him. It's like, it's stupid, buddy. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
You will get knocked out. Yeah, but like in this match specifically, the best thing that are done It's by the guns and by Owen, which is really sad. It's like I feel bad. I feel bad for Owen Hart because it's like you literally carried this entire match.
He deserved
The entire team, like
he deserved so much better.
you know. So this finish came kind of out of nowhere, really. It was a distraction set up, and then Owen basically got the pin after Yokozuna had done something to facilitate it. It wasn't great. It was actually very disappointing.
And it was this kind of stuff that sorry, excuse me. It was this kind of stuff that had Owen thinking, I'm kind of done with wrestling.
Yeah.
And he was going to go and become a fireman. And he'd actually had like an interview and done tests with one of the branches of the Canadian fire service. Like he was sick of, because he was so talented and he had so much to offer, and they kept just giving him crap. He was going to quit wrestling. That's one of the horrible ironies of history, that if he had, he'd probably still be alive.
Yeah. So we have a quick promo with Big Daddy Diesel. It's not a good promo. It really isn't.
Isn't it so weird to see Diesel being like a smiling white meat baby face? It just doesn't suit him.
No, it really doesn't. And then we have a very disappointing match.
But before you go on, so his actual promo is about how it's Mother's Day. So this pay-per-view is taking place on Mother's Day, and apparently his mother had died the year before.
Oh God, yeah.
It was very sad, and doesn't matter how big you are, your ma dies, you're going to be devastated. But it just wasn't in keeping with the character, or what we know nowadays as Kevin Nash. It's just bizarre.
So Jerry the King Lawler introduces his mother.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And it's not his mother.
No. Well, how do you know it's not his Dara? Come on, how do you know it's not his mother?
Because she's 20 years younger than him.
Easily 20 years younger than him. And she's wearing a dress with a slit up the side that goes up to her throat.
Yeah. Although I have to say, I mean, watching this makes way more sense, with Jerry Lawler being the commentator. He was never anything else but this. And I'm like, it actually, again, I think all the weird stuff that happens in WWE, from this point on, is rooted in this era.
What's he like? So I get the joke. It's like Jerry Lawler coming out going, "This is my mother." It's obviously not his mother. Blah blah blah. It's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
What's the joke here? So Jerry Lawler is saying, "My mother is a hot 20-something-year-old woman. I want to bang my ma." Is that?
I think so. Yeah.
Is that what it?
Yeah.
So what are you trying to tell me here, Jerry?
It's like, Jerry, what's going on, buddy? Listen, come on.
Is this an Oedipus situation here? Are we going to get Greek or off of?
I don't know.
In your Colosseum, what's Colosseum video was what it was put out on. It all ties in.
It's never referred to again, though. She's just kind of there. It's just like a one-note thing, and it goes back to Brett, who cuts
at the end of the match. He does kind of lead her back to the locker room, or lead her back behind the curtain, to safety, and presumably to incest.
Yeah, but I mean, you see her a little bit during the match, but it's not like she has any other role other than, and the commentators aren't like, "Oh, that's his mother." No,
the commentators are like, that can't be his mother. You're like, oh, really? Vince, you're not convinced, Vince? Is this unbelievable?
This 45-year-old man
and his 20-year-old mother. Fucking Jerry Christ. Jerry, the king of the Jews.
You know what's weird, right? Oh God. When there's the only thing that really takes you out of this watching these shows in this time, right? It's not so much anything that happens in the ring. It's like the technology. When you see people just get one of the disposable cameras or the flick cameras to take a picture, you're like, oh God, this was like 30 years ago. Because, and that it's weird.
But they're so great because of the flash.
Yeah.
Like whenever a big moment happens and you see like 200 flashes, and it looks amazing.
Yeah,
like you don't get that now with modern cameras.
No, you don't. Actually, it's more weird if someone has a camera because you're like, what are you doing? Like, use your phone like a normal person. But yeah, look, this match wasn't great. Jerry Lawler would get the win after like a lot of shenanigans from Hakushi, who basically, ran in and did the whole TNA run-in nonsense. So yeah, that's basically what it was.
But it was bizarre for more reasons, because remember earlier we talked about how Bret Hart beat Hakushi and then he climbed out of the ring and then pretended he banjacked his knee. And he was limping around and he limped backstage, and then he did a promo where he was limping and holding his knee. And then, so Jerry Lawler comes out with his inverted commas mother, and it cuts backstage to Bret Hart going, oh, hey, Jerry, I got a surprise for you. And he's like jogging on the spot. He's going, ha, I was joking the whole time about my knee. And I'm like, why not do that in the match with Hakushi? Why not pretend that during the match Hakushi did something that hurt your knee? Why pretend that you hurt your knee getting out of the ring? Like,
I don't know, man.
And then do this ruse to lose anyway.
What makes it even worse? Like, so that's questionable. The promo that Sid cuts directly after the match is the most bizarre thing I have seen in a long time. Well, the camera is shoved into his face, and he's just vibrating.
Well, here's
like, what is going on?
Here's where it's about being comparative, like keeping things on an even keel. So what I actually have in my notes is surprisingly competent promo from Sid. Because the last time we did a show a couple of weeks ago where Sid Vicious did a promo. It was the most rambling nonsense. Well, like, I can't remember what it was. Actually, maybe I have it here in my notes. But you remember I did a literal word for word rereading of what the Sid Vicious promo was, because I didn't want to oversell it. I didn't want people to think I was like joking or being hyperbolic. It was literally nonsense.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, this was bizarre. And the camera zoomed right, like you were saying, it got closer and closer into his eyeball the whole time he was talking. But I was like, this made sense. He didn't forget his words, and he didn't start saying random words that don't make any sense.
It's because he didn't say that many words at all. He just started vibrating.
Well, there you go. It's like accentuate the positives, hide the negatives. It's like Sid, not so good at words, pretty good at shaking uncontrollably.
But I did notice something on a rewatch here. So remember I said that young fella who was like in the back. So it would cut back to Vince and Doc, right? That young fella has been replaced by a very angry looking black man. So,
I told you, bad news brown.
So they have kicked that kid out who was like harassing him and replaced him with a very serious looking African American lad. Like everyone else is still there except for that kid who was like trying to touch Doc's.
What? Yeah, is that what it was? What was he doing?
I don't know what he was doing, but he got his ass kicked out. So that's what happened.
God, when in the first match, when Bret got knocked off the ring, it's mad. It's so mad how it's 1995 and Diesel is the world champion and Bret is opening the show and in a match with Jerry Lawler, because Bret is so insanely over. Like, he's mega over. Like, even when he's not there. So during Hakushi's entrance, everyone is chanting, "We want Brett." Then when the Hitman comes out, the pop is insane. And when Brett gets knocked off the ring by Hakushi and into the guardrail, like, it's like, do you remember the Undertaker's entrance? I think it was WrestleMania 25, where he had all the hands coming out and grabbing him as he walked the ring. Brett hits the guardrail, and that's what it's like. All these hands just come out just to touch him. And he's like lying there, like rolling around, grabbing his shoulders. Like, Jesus, he's in pain. It's just so bizarre that Brett is so over.
Do you know what's more bizarre than that? The next segment.
What have we got? Oh, is this the house?
This is the house. Yeah. So I mean, this whole segment is so bizarre. They take out these big rakes. They start raking through the letters. And I mean, I know they brought back your man for like the NXT eventually, but this woman they should have brought back too, because as a couple, these guys are phenomenal.
Oh, definitely.
So they have like these independent auditors to make sure it's not rigged. So I guess, they were legit. And they pick out this person and call them. And your man's like, "Are you joking with me?" And he's like, No, seriously, you want to?" He starts screaming. And what I love the fact is when they announced that he won, they're like, "Pending verification, you have won." I'm like, what? What are they verifying?
You're actually a person.
You're not just a random number. But I mean,
make sure that this isn't 3 crocodiles in a suit.
You know what they should do though? Like, again, all joking aside, they should do this. This is the thing they should do. WWE solves, like the ad where it like saves humanity. WWE solves the housing crisis.
WWE solves the housing crisis. Parentheses for one person.
For one person. Pending verification. Okay.
WWE buys an apartment in Dublin. Just buy your tickets to the show. Parentheses. Tickets are €699
a month.
Tickets are a percentage of your wage that will be deducted from your account for the next 10 years.
So the only time that the crowd actually kind of gets very sign heavy is in the main event. And the main event is very, like, look, I get Sid Vicious. I'm like, okay, cool. Diesel probably was the right choice to give the belt to. But my God, this main event. It's
this is another one of the moments when the commentary really hit me. So Diesel comes out and Vince is like, "Oh my God, unbelievable. This crowd is going insane for world champion Diesel." And I'm sitting there going, why are you lying to me? I can hear it. They are not he got the exact same kind of muted pop that Sid got. He got the same kind of pop.
They're indifferent to both.
Like, he was like, he was nowhere near Bret Hart's. Like, he was like a fraction of Bret Hart's pop. He was like on par with like Lawler, and Adam Bomb got a bigger pop.
Tell me, that's who should have been the world champion.
Well, do you know what? It would have made more sense, wouldn't it? But you have to remember, so I'm watching this and I'm going, why is Vince putting all these fat, useless fuckers on? And it's because this is post steroid scandal. So he can't have huge muscle-bound guys, but Vince still has his thing for huge guys. So huge is huge, and if he can't have huge muscle-bound, that's why he has fucking Mabel and fucking Yokozuna on the show. And the only mystery, like the only thing that I can't figure out is if Vince was like so rock hard for huge guys, why was he shagging Shawn Michaels, the skinniest guy on the roster?
Allegedly.
Well, it's the podcast. I don't think we need. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Maybe he was worried he couldn't perform with Yokozuna.
Oh god. Okay, so look, Diesel would defeat Sid in this match by disqualification. It really wasn't much to write home about. Overall, I thought the show was quite good. If middling, it was worth $15.
But here's
not a bad start.
But what about this? Like, so it's a brand new pay-per-view. You're kicking off this brand new pay-per-view. You're trying to tell people that it's important, that it's something worth signing up for, and then your world title match is like whether the match itself is good or not is subjective. Like, I didn't like it, you didn't like it, most people in the world didn't like it, but that's entirely subjective. But
I guarantee if Dave was here, I guarantee he'd be like, "Oh, this was the best match ever, Dara. What are you talking about?"
It'd be like, I was thoroughly sports entertained. Dave, don't take that as an insult. We love you.
We do. But we know what you're like.
But the network has changed. You used to be able to skip forward in the network by 10 seconds. And for some reason now they've changed it. You can only skip forward by 30 seconds, right? So I'm sitting watching this match, and at one stage, Sid gets Diesel in a camel clutch. And I skip forward 30 seconds, and he's still in the camel clutch. And I skip forward 30 seconds, and he's still in the camel clutch.
He's in it for ages.
He is in that thing for minimum 3 minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes in a wrestling match
is an eternity.
It's like if you're a stand-up comic and you say nothing for 3 minutes, it's an eternity.
Yeah.
It's just at one stage, Sid does a choke slam on Diesel, and again, I use the same air quotes for choke slam that I did for Jerry Lawler's mother. It's the most bizarre version of a choke. It makes no physical sense. I don't know how to describe it. You just can't have to see it. Like, Sid grabs him by the throat, so we get that bit right. And then he just kind of moves to the side and puts one arm out. It just doesn't make any sense.
Both of these lads were just like, I can't wait to go and get some beers afterwards. That's all this was. And it's a shame because, I mean, it was the main event, but there was nothing main or event worthy about it. It was just a thing that happened.
It was like, do you remember when we did Sid versus Vader, the Battle of the Power Bombs, and neither of them did a power bomb?
Yeah.
Well, now we know why, because Sid did a shitty power bomb.
Yeah.
And then Diesel did I don't even know if it was his fault, but he did a shitty jackknife because Sid basically lands on his ass.
Yeah.
And then the worst part is that you're selling this new pay-per-view. You're trying to tell people that this is something worth watching. You've got a main event between two of your biggest guys, and you ended with a stupid fucking run-in from Tatanka. Like, if you want to put Diesel over, then fucking put him over.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like it's such a weird thing in wrestling where people think, and it's largely like online people, but people think like if you lose, you're buried. It's like no. It's a competition. Somebody has to lose. Just because you lost on the day doesn't mean you're buried. Like, if you're gonna put your world champion over, fucking put your world champion. Your world champion does not look any better because Tatanka ran in, and your heel monster does not look any scarier because Tatanka ran in. Exactly,
and that's it. And I mean, the thing about it is, it's like ending the show on this kind of down note. It's I would have been better if Sid had won, to be honest with you, because then people would have been like, "Whoa, that was shocking."
Yeah,
it was the most unsurprising surprise they could have possibly done, and it's very modern WWE. As I said, this show, it has a lot of what WWE does now, but unfortunately, it is what it is, man. You know, and look, it was a $15 show. They were just like, "Look, we'll just do what we can do," and that was it. So, yeah, look, what would you give this one a rating, or would you say it's worth watching, or what would you do?
I'd honest to God, I'd give it a D.
A D. Okay,
D's not the lowest. I mean, these scores are kind of arbitrary. I mean, if we were giving it score out of 10, 3, maybe.
Yeah.
Brett Akushi is good. There are a couple more matches on it then that are fine, but it's a pay-per-view. Like fine is all right for halfway through Raw. Fine isn't all right for a pay-per-view, you know?
Yeah.
And then the main
Even
event,
a cheap one, even a cheap pay-per-view.
even a cheap one. And then but like you're saying cheap, but like earlier you talked about the difference between inflation. So this was $15 in 1999. What is that now?
About 30.
Because I just paid 20 quid for Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor.
Oh wow, okay.
You know, so like I'm expecting an amazing pay-per-view because Ring of Honor's pay-per-views have been incredible. Like if I paid that for this, I'd be really pissed. And it's not just because it was one good match and then a load of crap. It was because it was built on the world title match between two monsters, and like the worst thing you can do, worse than a bad match, worse than a crappy finish, like, well, not worse than a crappy finish, but worse than anything you can do is a non-finish.
Yeah, or be boring.
Or be boring. Exactly, be boring. Or a non-finish in a match that you've built up. Like it's, I've given you my money to see what the outcome is, and you've given me no outcome. You know.
Exactly. And that's what happened here. I think that's the typical WWE thing. They've been doing it for like 30 years. They'd move away from it in the Attitude Era and really kind of get exciting and give people something. And this is what happens.
Imagine a whore bringing you to the point of ejaculation and then sending you home. Like you'd rather you just never went.
And on that lovely image, folks, we will wrap up this week's show. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been Darragh O'Connor, obviously my co-host, Mr. Martin Herty. Folks, if this is your first time checking out the show, thank you so much. But please go over to nerdtoknowmedia.com, thewrestlingrewind.com, and, maybe give us an X-Pac Euro, 1, 2, 3 Kid Euro, Virgil Tenor, disappointed whoer counter. Whatever amount you want to give us, that would be great, because we very much appreciate it. Martin, is there anything you want to plug before we finish up?
How do I top that? Just when I thought I'd been the most outrageous person on the podcast, you swoop in there and you take my grimy crown from me. Like, what am I supposed to say?
An RKO out of nowhere.
Sensational. No, I've nothing to say.
Thank you. All right, folks, we'll be back next week. See you later.
See you for that.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.